Mr. Rector Magnificus, Mr. Dean, dear audience, as human beings, as societies, we've always been fascinated by reflections. Reflections reveal more than what meets the eye. They bring to light the unseen, the mysterious, such as our own faces or secrets concealed within our hearts. Long ago, humans turned to elements like water, ice, obsidian to catch a glimpse of themselves. In the natural reflections, they discovered the first objectification of the human soul, as Melchior Bonnet eloquently describes in her fantastic book, The Mirror, A History. She writes that myths like Narcissus, who was delighted by his own image, bear witness to the early curiosity towards reflections. A curiosity that might stem from the fact that, quote, far beyond presenting an enactment, the reflection invites the mind to free itself from the tangible and focus on cause rather than effect. In other words, to contemplate the world with the clarity of understanding, returning to the essence. End quote. Nowadays, we, of course, have embraced man-made objects for reflection, with the glass mirror being the most widely used and perfected tool for visual reflection. We see glass mirrors all around us without even taking notice of them. They have become an integral part of our daily lives. AI has been likened to many metaphors, but the glass mirror stands out as one of the most compelling and telling one, given the profound technological, social, philosophical, legal associations that have evolved around it over time. Allow me to highlight a few quotes and insights from Melchior Bonnet's book, spanning centuries. During the Golden Age of Athens, quote, Socrates urged young people to look at themselves in mirrors so that if they were beautiful, they would become worthy of their beauty. And if they were ugly, they would learn how to hide their disgrace through learning. End quote. In the medieval age, much like Silicon Valley now, mirror technology, Venice became a global hub for mirror science, for mirror technology, and also for mirror craftsmanship, even though, quote, the church opposed all experiments with mirrors as curiosity, unlike faith, sought to pierce the secrets of God and to seek out that which was supposed to stay hidden from men, most especially the future. End quote. Venice fiercely guarded its monopoly by setting up a ring of defenses around its workers, ranging from beneficial tax exemptions to oppressive factory contracts. Melchior Bonnet goes on to describe how, during the Renaissance, quality improvements and lower prices by competitors in France led to the collapse of the Italian mirror industry. The narrative of the mirror also changed into an empowering one, because people came to believe in the idea of, quote, an infinite universe, no longer closed, circular, and prone to being deciphered, end quote. Finally, in the Age of Enlightenment, the mirror turned from, quote, an instrument of social hierarchy to a symbol of equality among men, serving as a normative instrument for measuring conformity to the social code and facilitating the advent of a democratic world, end quote. These and many other technological, philosophical, social, moral associations with mirror, often marked by ambivalence, God versus devil, good versus evil, nature versus artifice, moral versus immoral, privacy versus social life, and utopia versus dystopia are now re-emerging in the context of AI. One aspect of the mirror, one aspect of the history of the mirror, invites deeper exploration and comparison with AI. Over centuries, different forms of mirrors have been crafted and utilized, including flat mirrors, convex mirrors, concave mirrors. These mirrors reflect reality in different ways, allowing the emergence of new insight and the production of new knowledge. As Melchior Bonnet puts it, quote, "The convex mirror concentrated space and offered a global and spherical view of the world, embracing multiple perspectives, but its roundness distorted the image. The plane mirror, on the other hand, offered an exact but only partial image, a framed vision from a single point of view that controls what is seen like a stage director. A model of knowledge that is no longer symbolic and analogical, but rather critical and discursive, the mirror finds its place in a new philosophy of representation, responding to its own rules." End quote. In the past, mirrors not only have served as a social purpose, but also contributed significantly to scientific progress. In animal science, for example, mirrors are used as a test for self-recognition, for self-awareness. In astronomy, telescopes are used as complex mirror arrangements to precisely capture distant objects in space. In microscopy, mirrors are used to direct and focus light, enabling detailed exploration of the microscopic world. And these are merely a handful among the many, many instances where mirrors serve as a scientific instrument. The different forms of mirrors created throughout time served 5 distinct functions, from personal to societal. The first function is reflection, primarily concerned with observing the physical, the visual appearance. The second function, introspection, involves scrutinizing one's emotions, thoughts, motivations, and actions in order to cultivate consciousness. As noted, mirrors still serve as a test for self-awareness, self-recognition. The third function is imagination, enabling to dream about the self and society, envisioning what might be. As early as 1650, the mirror's imagination function was taken to heart by the German Jesuit Kircher. He developed the metamorphosis machine, depicted here on screen. Much like today's face filter apps, this machine allowed a person to look at himself in the mirror and see the sun or the head of an animal or another object appear on the reflected body instead of his own face. The fifth function involves transformation, enabling change in both the self and in society. For instance, during the Renaissance, mirrors played an important role in emancipation. They allowed the less privileged to view themselves in the mirror and transform their appearances to align with the wealthy. These 5 mirror functions follow a sequential path, transitioning from reflection to introspection, imagination, and to transformation. A path that became evident only after decades and even centuries. And much like the mirror, the entire spectrum of functions and impact of AI on society may only become evident across decades and centuries. AI has rapidly emerged as a new chapter in the history of reflections, promising to become the most extensive mirror, both in scale and in depth. It extends its reflections far beyond the individual and far beyond the physical, capturing and reflecting our collective knowledge, our collective thoughts, emotions, actions, and behaviors through the sheer data that we collectively and continuously generate, and through the insightful information that we extract from this data. These reflections of AI can be, in a certain way, viewed as the first objectification of society's soul. This is a view that heart surgeon turned comedian Bassem Youssef embraces, sarcastically, yet very thoughtfully. In a recent viral Piers Morgan interview, Bassem Youssef shared how he used ChatGPT to gain an objective view of how the world thinks about Israelis and how the world thinks about Palestinians. He asked ChatGPT if Israelis deserve to be free, and he asked ChatGPT if Palestinians deserve to be free. The answer to the first question was yes. The answer to the second question, it's complex, reflecting the world's dominant but not necessarily righteous perspectives and practices. If Socrates were here today, he might urge the world to look at itself in the AI mirror and learn to see and overcome its flaws rather than looking away. But however ugly and unfair they may be, reflections of AI, such as the ones produced by ChatGPT, hold the promise of a societal introspection, imagination, critical transformation at scale. And this promise extends beyond humans and human society to other animate and inanimate objects on our planet. As data gathered from nature not only allows us to better understand and learn from nature's diverse manifestations of intelligence, but it also allows us to form new ways of coexistence centered on both human and planetary well-being. Unfortunately, this promise of AI risks remaining unfulfilled. In the past, curiosity, serendipity, and sincerity of exploration led to the creation of different types of mirrors, each providing unique reflections and perspectives on reality. This sincerity and diversity of reflections served as a rich foundation for deep introspection, imagination, and transformation of individuals, of communities, and of whole societies. Today, we are collectively constructing a specific type of mirror, an infinity mirror. Such a mirror consists of two parallel planes, generating endless, progressively smaller reflections of the same object or object constellations. At first glance, it may evoke a sense of awe, offering an infinite glimpse into the world. However, the endless, repetitive reflections result in sameness and hence in emptiness. The AI infinity mirror we are building today is formed by two planes representing the public sector, particularly academia, and the private sector, particularly big tech. These two planes are, as of yet, very poorly polished, coarsely and selectively, resulting in foggy reflections. And together they create endless, progressively smaller reflections of the same opinions, frames, behaviors. With such poor reflections, meaningful introspection, imagination, and transformation become unattainable. AI is evolving into an infinity mirror, keeping individuals and society within an echo. Ironically, the infinity mirror is being developed in a world experiencing rapid and complex changes across social, political, technological, ecological dimensions. In such a world, rich reflections coming from AI or through other means, such as education, are a precondition for meaningful change. Nevertheless, we tend to look away. We tend to suppress or superficially address reflections of ourselves as human beings, as organizations, and as society as a whole. As individuals, we proclaim our openness and our self-critique, our openness to reflection and also openness to self-critique, yet we find ourselves trapped in false frames, in false assumptions, and in false behavior. Take, for example, the distorted narratives around migrants and refugees in politics, in media, society as a whole. Despite repeated debunking, these misleading frames keep persisting and even become dominant in national elections, as we have seen here in the Netherlands last month. We like to consider ourselves as intelligent, enlightened, and social beings, but science, and also everyday life, consistently reveal our sensitivity to cognitive biases like attribution bias, self-serving bias, status quo bias. And organizations embed and strengthen these sensitivities within their structures. They may establish policies and processes to address issues like social discrimination, inequality, and injustices, yet often find themselves doubling down these very issues. In the Netherlands, for example, hiring discrimination based on race and ethnicity has grown over time, despite scores of interventions. In the complex times we currently face, our limitations and pitfalls are becoming undeniably apparent. And the infinity mirror that AI is becoming is playing into and reinforcing these limitations and traps. Escaping these intrapersonal, interpersonal, and organizational traps requires more than perpetual scrutiny of the self and isolated problem-solving of complex social issues. It necessitates abstracting away from these specific issues and considering the broader picture. It requires systemic reflection. And many scholars, thinkers, influential individuals, and ordinary people have proposed and advocated this for long. Among them, one stands out, the renowned Brazilian scholar and changemaker Paulo Freire. He highlights a world marked by uneven distribution, power concentration, and inequality. Freire abstracts these social phenomena, considering them as a manifestation of a system, a social system, a cycle designed to maintain the status quo. The cycle of oppression, as Paulo Freire puts it more strongly in his seminal work, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, revolves around predefined assumptions, frames, roles, and power structures. Early in life, individuals are exposed to these preconceptions through their parents, through family and education. And later in life, churches, cultural practices, the rule of law, media, and other societal elements perpetuate and reinforce them through their policies and practices. By inheriting and conforming to these preconceptions, individuals are normalized both consciously and unconsciously. In this way, society is turned into a vortex, guided by the ethics of the market, as Paulo Freire puts it, and revolving around power, profit, competition, greed, and fear. This context is also the backdrop against which we develop, deploy, and optimize AI currently. Over the past decades, AI has undergone most stages of the cycle of oppression, reinforcing the systems and structures that hold society in a grip of inequality, discrimination, and exclusion. Unfortunately, individuals, government organizations, academia, companies continue to contribute to this cycle. Their lack of technical or social awareness about AI, coupled with the desire to maintain the status quo and power structures, often lead to these outcomes. Consider the recent child benefit scandal, where the AI system of the Dutch tax office falsely flagged tens of thousands of parents and caregivers for fraud. Mostly people from ethnic minority groups and low-income families. The AI system used by these authorities merely reflected and implemented the government's then dominant assumptions and perceptions around people from ethnic minority groups and low-income families. The scandal brought down the Dutch government, but it really remains to be seen if sufficient lessons have been learned. This and other similar scandals could have been averted had people and organizations engage in deeper reflection and introspection on institutional and societal assumptions, biases, and behaviors. But rather than engaging in such processes, rather than acknowledging responsibility and making fundamental changes, AI is often blamed. This practice creates a narrative that pits humans against AI, rather than addressing the root causes. It leads to business leaders, politicians, scientists, artists, and many others to call for an AI pause instead of calling for societal reflection. Consequently, we continue to build AI in the same manner and against the same background, collectively reinforcing the cycle of oppression, we are collectively contributing to an infinity mirror and missing the promise of AI. However, an alternative path is possible. We can construct a different kind of AI, one that is not self-serving and self-perpetuating, an AI that is not an infinity mirror, but a kaleidoscopic mirror. A kaleidoscopic mirror is constructed not from just 2, but 3 mirrors, carefully placed under specific angles. In a kaleidoscopic mirror, sameness disappears and newness appears. It produces beautiful patterns from different reflections of objects and blendings thereof, as I guess most of us will have experienced during our childhood. In this spirit, we can carefully craft kaleidoscopic AI from finely polished planes, not only representing the public and private sectors, but also the civic sector, including civil society, communities, and citizens. A kaleidoscopic AI reflects societies in diverse ways, uncovering and playing into the unique and dynamic characteristics of people, communities, societies, their cultures, and their values, and enabling the creation of new cultures revolving around values such as dignity, morality, solidarity, and equity. This requires a radical different relationship between AI and the civic sector. Instead of viewing civil society and citizens in their capacity as consumers, customers, patients, residents, instead of considering them as a challenging nuisance, there is a need for an inclusive approach that actively involves them in the design, development, deployment, and improvement of AI. A kaleidoscopic AI has the potential to lead to a more self-aware and conscious society, in line with the philosophy of Paulo Freire, in line with the Ubuntu philosophy, in line with many other indigenous traditions. This might appear idealistic and unattainable due to our distorted, biased, and limited worldview, but if we gather the courage and take the right leadership to gradually think and act outside of our boxes, embracing the unknown, whether human or non-human, we might be able to break free from the cycle of oppression. Paulo Freire presents a path out of the cycle of oppression and toward the cycle of liberation. Decades ago, he introduced concepts like banking education and false generosity to help identify recurrent and self-enforcing patterns of oppression. He also introduced concepts like generative teams and concepts like praxis to break self-serving and self-perpetuating patterns and to foster meaningful change. He advocated a transition from the current ethics of the market, centering on economic values, to an ethics of life, grounded in values like dignity, empathy, compassion, and love. Altogether, the concepts Paulo Freire puts forward give rise to a cycle of liberation, a comprehensive and cyclical process that unfolds, according to Bobby Haro, in various stages. Stages that include changing how we see ourselves, getting rid of wrong beliefs, unfair attitudes, and behaviors that hold us and others back, connecting with others outside of our group and tribe, changing how we value and interact with them, promoting new cultures that reflect shared identities, and lastly, strengthening changes and making them a part of our daily routines. In this cycle, personal, group, and social values are continuously learned, and new cultures emerge from these values. And in many ways, Paulo Freire's cycle of liberation elevates the different mirror functions from a linear sequence to a circular one, from reflection to introspection to imagination, transformation, and back to reflection. Now, one might assume that Paulo Freire's decades-old ideas would have had ample time to prove themselves, to prove their worth. Yet it is possible that his ideas were ahead of their time, awaiting the right conditions to emerge. These conditions might be present today, with worldwide calls for political, social, environmental, and technological changes. Established ways of coexistence are being challenged. Hierarchy is being challenged. People from all walks of life are envisioning nostalgic or futuristic changes, addressing their feelings of discomfort and lack of belonging, addressing their this discomfort and this lack of belongings through their voices, through their hands, and through their feet. There are numerous indicators pointing to the willingness and readiness of people, including academics, to break free from the cycle of oppression. And one such indicator is the rapid increase in the citations to the work of Paulo Freire. His book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, published in 1970, is arguably the most cited work in the history of social sciences, with yearly citations increasing by the year. Paulo Freire's work now seems more relevant than ever, not only as a theory, but also as a theatrical methodology to empower vulnerable and marginalized people and communities. Moreover, not only seems there to be a willingness and a readiness among people to break free from the cycle of oppression, more powerful technologies are currently available to them to enable such change. Take, for instance, inverse surveillance AI. This turns the whole idea of surveillance upside down and uses AI to survey and hold accountable governmental authorities and companies. Still, AI is predominantly viewed and used to uphold the status quo. Even AI research is contributing to the status quo rather than helping breaking free from it. Current AI research can be broadly categorized in three groups. One group focuses mainly on the technological progress that AI brings, often overlooking the associated societal drawbacks. This is particularly prominent in the hard sciences, such as the field of AI itself. Another group concentrates on regulating or even banning AI, primarily found in the social and legal sciences and humanities. A third group, an emerging group, spans multiple disciplines, addressing both advancements and drawbacks of AI. This group forms a socio-technical space, which is currently dominated by AI safety research. And AI safety tackles the AI value alignment problem, the challenge of aligning human values, expressed as goals and intentions, with machine values, represented through objectives and actions of AI systems. It is in this period that earlier this week the EU reached a provisional agreement on AI regulation, and that last October, during the AI Safety Summit in the UK, the EU, along with 28 other nations, embraced the Declaration of Artificial Intelligence Safety. While these agreements will no doubt contribute to safety and ethics and responsible use of AI, and hence are as good steps in the right direction, the fundamental problem with AI safety research and policy remains. Namely, its grounding in existing societal frames, systems, and structures, inheriting conflicting and undesirable human values and intentions and behaviors, including discrimination, polarization, and hate. Consequently, AI will harm despite and even because of human-machine value alignment. Current perspectives on and practices of AI safety are likely to contribute to the cycle of oppression and lead to an infinity mirror. The EU AI Act, for example, prohibits face recognition systems and abusive mass surveillance technology, but most likely with the exceptions of their use in migration and border control, paving the way to inhuman treatment of migrants and asylum seekers. Now, to transition from the cycle of oppression to the cycle of liberation, to build a kaleidoscopic mirror instead of an infinity mirror, we must rethink the role of science. Firstly, science should move beyond its ivory tower, diving deeper into society and fully embracing its transformative role. The notion that science can stand apart from society and produce objective and neutral knowledge is an illusion that masks the deep connection between science and all sectors of society, public, private, and civic. And inspiringly, recent recognition and reward initiatives in academia, including at the University of Amsterdam and including the University of Amsterdam support for more engagement with society, offer a glimmer of hope. Secondly, a fresh perspective on AI research, education, and valorization is essential. Human-human value learning and alignment should become the primary goal, with human-machine alignment becoming a natural byproduct rather than being the ultimate goal. And this is where the field of socially intelligent AI should distinguish itself from the current AI safety field. Social intelligence, at its core, involves understanding oneself and engaging with others in a humane manner. On a group and population level, social intelligence fosters reliance on one another and promotes social functioning. It advances through engagement and cooperation with others and through interpersonal successes and failures in social settings. Socially intelligent AI systems and research should aim to enhance this social intelligence. One, by engaging with the cycle of oppression, uncovering algorithmic and non-algorithmic practices of oppression, such as discrimination and polarization. And two, by engaging with this cycle of liberation, helping to understand and shape liberative practices, policies, systems. Socially, AI systems should pave the path from oppression to liberation by harnessing AI's mirror functions: reflection, introspection, imagination, and transformation. Elements of such systems are already in place or being developed, however, often without consciously relating them to these mirror functions. For example, the creation of valuable data and the elimination of harmful data, whether in public, private, or civic sectors, is a form of polishing a mirror to get better reflections. The development of algorithms to extract meaningful patterns and insights from data contributes to better introspection. The computational simulation of future scenarios feeds imagination, and the gradual implementation of such scenarios enables meaningful and sustainable societal transformations. Within my research group, the Socially Intelligent Artificial Systems Group, we cover and interweave these mirror functions incrementally and iteratively, learning values and building trust at each step. And essential here is our relation, our collaboration, and in a way our implicit agreement with partners from the public and the private sector, as well as from the civic sector, to transform the infinite mirror that AI currently is to a kaleidoscopic mirror. And together we address the 4 AI mirror functions through diverse approaches. For example, in our Civic AI Lab, where we collaborate with the University of Amsterdam, the Free University of Amsterdam, the City of Amsterdam, and the Ministry of Interior, we address social inequality. We quantify the visual representation of city neighborhoods using computer vision models. That is, we curate visual data, expanding it or removing it to get better reflections and insights in traditional social phenomena such as livability, inequality, privacy, and gentrification. We use explainable and recursable machine learning models to uncover unfair and biased practices in health and in well-being, offering institutions food for thought. Our work extends to simulating and testing new public transport networks through multi-agent systems modeling, allowing to better scrutinize the impact of future public transport networks on accessibility fairness in mobility and in education. And we recommend procedural and regulatory enhancements to the way public organizations, in particular governments, local, national, to the way they develop and deploy AI-driven solutions, helping them to meaningfully transform their AI-related processes and AI-based policies. In more recent initiatives, we push the currently dominant AI technology for people perspectives, also present in our group, to AI technology with people and even by people, which I think should be the next frontier of AI. For the Heritage for the Future initiative, together with Afro-Caribbean communities in the Netherlands, our focus is on populating archives with previously unknown experiences and untold stories, yielding more representative data for AI models and helping policymakers with their knowledge gaps. In the AI for FinTech Hub in Amsterdam, we scrutinize interpretability and explainability of automated decision systems in finance, using neurosymbolic approaches, getting better foundations for financial insight and introspection. The Pro-Social Learning Lab is dedicated to developing social media link recommendation algorithms designed to have a long-term positive impact on observable social behavior. Here, simulations and online experiments will be used to test future scenarios. In the EU Horizon Project community, we have started to bring technology providers and governmental services closer to the needs of marginalized groups through co-creation. The aim here is to critically, not superficially, transform people's lived experiences with technology. All of these examples from our group are just a glimpse of the scope of research, education, and social engagement that we do in the group. And the breadth, depth, and interdisciplinarity of our activities comes, of course, with its share of challenges, including the bridging of scientific disciplines, perspectives, practices, covering the full spectrum of fundamental to applied research, getting our work published in academic journals. Nevertheless, we embrace these challenges boldly and continue in our quest for kaleidoscopic AI. Which leads me to the last part of my speech, acknowledgements. I am grateful to the people in my research group who have embraced the challenges alongside me. Hinda Hamed has been supportive and instrumental from the very beginning. Her down-to-earth perspective and straightforward practices have, I would say, beautifully complemented my somewhat kaleidoscopic approach to doing and thinking. My appreciation extends to Fernando Santos, Giovanni Sileno, and Herman Akar, who lead the group's public-public, public-civic, and public-private initiatives, and to Arjan Freken, who coordinates the group's educational responsibilities. Their knowledge, their skills, but above all, their kindness to others make it a joy to have them in the group. Of course, my heartfelt thanks to all the PhD students and researchers who form the core of our group. And last but not least, Virginie Mess. Her support has been and continues to be the natural adhesive that holds our group together. I would like to express my gratitude to the Institute of Informatics for welcoming me back after spending many years at other faculties, in particular Marcel Worring, Maarten de Rijke, and Alfons Hoekstra. Marcel Worring is now my colleague, but 30 years ago he was my master thesis supervisor. And during the defense of my thesis, he aptly described both me and my work as kaleidoscopic. This concept has stayed with me since, and well, as evident in the title of this inaugural speech, is returning back. Maarten's support in establishing the Civic AI Lab as one of the first public-public ICAI labs for social good has been of immense value. I appreciate his approachable and very effective manner in overcoming academic and social barriers, benefiting me, but also many others. Under the leadership of Van Hoekstra, the Institute recently introduced a 5th new research team: people, society, and technology, which not only provided the ideal conditions for me to grow into a position of full professor, but also for the CIAS group to flourish at the Institute. To all my colleagues within the Informatics Institute, and to all academic and non-academic partners, such as Marike van Putten, Elja Do, Ger Baron, Eik van Emeren, Bas Beekman, Turia Meliani, Caroline Nevejan, I extend my thanks. I also express my sincere gratitude to the Dean of the Faculty of Science, Peter van Tinderen, and the Executive Board of the University of Amsterdam for the trust placed in me and for appointing me to full professor. Working at different faculties, in different disciplines, with different groups and different people was challenging, yet an immensely enriching experience. Now it comes full circle as I accept the professorship at the Institute and the faculty where I studied and pursued my PhD. The breadth of my engagements with research, education, and valorization is in many ways a reflection of the breadth of the UvA and her institutes. And I would like to highlight one such institute, the Amsterdam University College. I am most thankful to Marijke van der Wende and Ramon Porras, who gave me the opportunity in 2009 to set up and teach the course Information, Communication and Cognition, paving the way for a decade of education on neural, social and computational mechanisms of bias. A few years later, they entrusted me with the position of Head of Social Sciences at the University College and guided me in managing an interdisciplinary team of scholars. One of these scholars is Marta Montero-Siebert, who reignited my interest in the works of Paulo Freire almost 2 decades after I first got to read The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Another is Jan Pronk, with whom I had the honor to regularly discuss his course International Development, but also had the opportunity to discuss with him the devastating effects of state oppression in Eritrea. He kept reassuring me that change always comes, sooner or later, and thus I should not lose hope. Instead, focus on young people, the next generation. Finally, Abram de Zwaan, who used to teach the course Mass Violence at the Amsterdam University College. His piercing analysis of social dynamics left a lasting impression on me. His kind and thoughtful gesture earlier this year to offer me his university gown because I am, quote, a beta scientist with a social edge, end quote, I took to heart. As you can see, I'm wearing his university gown with the colors and emblem of the Faculty of Social Science, now enriched with the Faculty of Science trim. A colorful and symbolic blend. Before turning to my family, I would like to give special recognition and thanks to my most significant mentor, Arnold Smulders. I started my PhD in 1996 in computer vision and medical imaging under his supervision. Since then, Arnold has served as my personal mirror, challenging me to see my shortcomings and helping me to recognize my talents. Through thick and thin, encouraging me to reflect, introspect, imagine, and transform myself. His guidance, mentorship, and invaluable life lessons have been instrumental in both my academic and my personal life. So I am immensely grateful for his support, without which I would not be here today. I conclude naturally with my heartfelt thanks to my family. It's an immense privilege to share this moment with them, with you. My sharp-witted 104-year-old grandmother, Harogune Amen, Areda, who never stops following and caring about what is going on in the world, as you can see in this picture taken a few months ago. My loving, wise, and humble parents, Sennay Ghebreab and Asr Ishaq, who first sacrificed their well-established life in Eritrea to resist Ethiopian oppression, and later sought refuge in the Netherlands, placing the well-being and future of their kids above all else. My two sisters, Miko and Winta, and my extended family. And finally, my soulmate of almost 30 years and beautiful wife, Bet El Mariam, along with our 4 adorable kids, Ioas, Eliab, Joab, who are now 5th-generation students and 3rd-generation soccer players, and Eliana, who still prefers to be called Schatje Patatje. My family's unwavering love and support has shaped the person that I am today. Now, last year, my grandmother sensibly summarized the legacy of my great-grandfather, Sennay Ghebreab, and my grandfather, Ishaq Sennay. She said, the first dedicated his life to transitioning society from not knowing the known, from not knowing to knowing the known, through reading and writing of biblical texts. While the second, my grandfather, devoted his to transitioning society from knowing the known to knowing the unknown through mathematics and art. Coming from a family that over generations has dedicated their lives to dismantling oppressive structures and empowering marginalized people through education, delivering this inaugural speech on this topic, to me, is what it means to stand on the shoulder of giants. This is why I dedicate this inaugural speech to my family and in particular to my grandmother, who insisted that I deliver this speech as quickly as possible, hence today, to ensure that she would witness it and pass it on to my ancestors. Ik heb gezegd.